Hello and welcome to another episode of the Cricket and the King podcast, the podcast where Jesus is the answer to everything, and we are constantly expanding on that point. I'm your host, Ben, and today we're going to be talking about moral offloading. What is it? Who does it? What is it as a concept? I'm sure this isn't my idea, and I know that other people have probably talked about this in the past, but it's been something that's running through my brain, especially lately in the postscript of COVID and all the stuff that happened, especially surrounding, and I will bring this back, and so we're going to go on a little bit of a wee tangent here, but foster animals specifically. So how does moral offloading pertain to foster animals? I think that in Western society, it's easy to find a scapegoat for your personal responsibility to society. And I watch a lot of people, specifically younger people, although there are older people that do this as well. They go out, they get a foster dog, and then they've decided that they've changed the world, and that's the one thing that they're going to handle, the one thing that they're going to do to make a difference, to make an impact, to fix society. They get their little foster dog and they go, oh, he's nervous and he bites people and he poops on the floor, but we're just taking responsibility where we can. We're just making a difference. And once they have that foster dog, it's as if all responsibility to anything else is gone because they are just bearing the burden of this foster animal. And that is not a true burden. That is not an actual responsibility to society. And I know there's probably lots of animal rights people and animal activists and stuff that would get mad about this, but animals specifically don't understand their suffering. So if you have a dog that's been beaten and abused and has personality traits that are dangerous because of this, like it would bite the face of a child that got too close to it, it growls constantly, it barks incessantly, it poops on your floor instead of in the yard, and it's just untrainable, and it's living a miserable life. It doesn't understand why it's suffering and why you're keeping it alive. It might be receiving love to some degree. I don't know how much an animal has a soul, and I'm sure that's debated in many circles. I personally believe they're not divine beings created in the image of God like humans. I think they hold a separate, lower place. Not that we don't have the responsibility to take care of them, but we do not value them as humans. We value them as creations that deserve our respect and care, but not as valuable as people. I think that is probably a separate issue as well, societally, is that we've anthropomorphized animals to the point where we regard them as human, but that's kind of a separate issue. So anyway, these dogs that, specifically rescue dogs, a lot of the ones I've met, some rescues end up being great with training and time and love and affection and care and whatever, and that's fantastic. I'm happy they can make great pets. But I know a lot of these dogs end up attacking people, being horrible, generally just like a problem for the 8 or 9 or 10 or 15 years sometimes that they're on God's green earth. And I think it's cruel to make a dog go through that with its complete lack of understanding. I think it would be better for those dogs to be put down. I also think, because I value people more than dogs, I think that putting that dog down would keep people safe. Because of that, it is in the interest of the people to keep people safe rather than, say, protect this poor dog who had this horrible life previously. And although that's probably true, that it had a horrible life, it's not the same as... So here I guess is where the moral offloading comes. It's not the same as taking on the burden of a child who was abused and who lashes out incessantly and breaks things and smashes your dishes and throws your garbage all over the floor and is, acting out. And you saying that we're going to take the responsibility, because I would assume it would be a couple that would take the responsibility of raising this child who's experienced this abuse, and we're going to take on what we need to go through, the counseling and you won't just, because that child's made in the image of God, you can't just put a kid down, which I know sounds obvious. It's like, of course, you can't just kill children. But I think that in our society we've begun to equate these animals to children, and in that offloaded higher responsibilities, because dealing with an animal is easier than dealing with a child because there's less complexity, there's less emotion attached, there's less pain. um, they don't talk back. Dogs don't talk back, animals don't talk back. And I think that's a problem, that as a society there are now more people. I'm not actually sure what the true statistic is, but I know this was a survey done a while ago, I think 2017. I can get fact checked on this or whatever. But people were asked if it was a stranger and their dog drowning, who they would save, the stranger or their dog. And before, it was very clearly like, I would save the jeepers. Stranger. A dog is a dog. And you can get another dog, but a human life matters. Now we have more and more people saying, I think it's past the 50% mark, oh, I would save my dog, let the person die. That is a huge moral failing in our society, and that's a huge breakdown of the values that built our society. And obviously, I think in the kingdom and the solution to all this is coming to know, love, and serve Jesus Christ, who values children and women and men and everybody, and treats them all with love and respect and dignity. And he wasn't a vegetarian, so he ate animals. So I'm sure, although he treated them with respect, he still saw the natural order of things. Anyway, I don't know, but we can assume that he lived a pretty practical life for the time period that he lived in. But anyway, our offloading of this moral responsibility by elevating animals to this higher status and giving them this great importance allows us, I say us like I'm doing this, I don't participate in this. I think rescues, like I said, are just terrible. But we've elevated the animals and lowered the value of humans so that we can feel like when we are helping these animals, it is the same as helping humans. And we've done our due diligence to make the world a better place. And although there are some people, I know I have relatives and stuff that absolutely adore animals and taking care of animals, and they're in the profession of doing that professionally, and that's great. But I don't think that it's equatable. I don't think that it's equivalent. I don't think you can say that those two things, if you take care of a broken dog or you take care of a broken child, like you're doing your part to make the world a better place. I think that is a lie, and I think it gives people space to say, like I said, oh, I've done my part. I need not do any more. I need not be involved in the pain of human problems. I think the biggest problem with people, wow, that's a lot of P words. The problem with problems with people is that you have to deal with pain, real tangible pain and brokenness, and it's messy, and it's so much more complex than some dog eating your garbage or pooping on the rug. It's evil. It's when people have been touched by darkness or are participating in darkness, and we volunteer to step into that and bring light and bring healing. But that doesn't mean your own heart isn't vulnerable. I don't know of any foster parents or people that have been in critical care situations that don't have their heart ripped out by becoming attached to these children that they care for. And then, of course, the system sometimes takes them away, or sometimes a very positive thing happens and the family's able to pull it together, and the children are able to go back with their parents, which is a good thing. But it's very hard for the family that may have raised them for 6 months, a year, more. They get their heart ripped out, and that is the problem of human problems. Is that I was about to sneeze. Just dead air. Me waiting to sneeze. Okay, I think it's gone. Anyway, the problem is that there's more pain involved in dealing with these real problems. And I think our responsibility as believers is to look critically at the things that we're choosing to deal with, the things that we're choosing to fill our time with, and say, is this a distraction from doing the more difficult things, or is this a legitimate passion and gift from God? Consider it pure joy when you face trials of many kinds. That's in James. Is this something that I can go through and know with certainty that I'm doing the correct thing beyond my own, flesh, my concerns, my crises, my whatever? That is a question that I think believers specifically need to ask themselves, because this moral offloading is everywhere. And as culture impacts Christianity, which I don't think is correct, but as it does, I think it's easier to see yourself as righteous doing these petty acts of service to things that don't matter. And I think we do this a lot. There's a lot more examples than just, animals in a shelter or whatever. But that's the most pertinent and kind of in focus one I can think of for our society specifically. I think another way that we morally offload, and this is separate from that, is that we look at problems that are too large for us to impact and really worry and focus our attention on this. And I see this a lot with people and like global events or world politics or whatever. And it's not that you can't be informed or understand those things or even try to be involved, write a petition to your member of parliament, or, well, that's what we have in Canada. I'm not sure for you guys in the States or my one listener in Australia. I'm not sure what you guys have for reaching out and having any impact on your level of government. But, there are certain things you can do. But most of the time, with a lot of issues that are global, that are just these huge conglomerate problems, we can't touch those. And sometimes looking at those is a distraction from doing the small things in our lives that are really going to matter. And I say this not as a criticism of anyone so much as a criticism of myself. I've seen this. I've been trying to keep up with global events, especially with the conflict in Ukraine, and so many different pieces there going on. And although there was a conflict with India and China, and they're kind of contentious about some land, and there's things happening in the world. But I think when we begin to focus on these things that we can't impact and hyper focus on them, and then we begin to feel justified in that our concern, we take our concern or our outrage as action. I don't know how true that is for everybody, but I know for me at least it is fairly true. I do take concern as action to some degree, which is wrong. Action is action. But I think it's important to look at what we can actually impact, the little things around us, and be focused on doing those things. I have a friend who was telling me about a saint whose motto, saint like just ratified by the Catholic Church. I think everybody's a saint. Just, everybody that's a believer, you're all saints or whatever. It says that in Hebrews. I can back that up with scripture, but I can't think of the particular verse right now. But anyway, she just said her motto was to do small things with great love, and I thought that was great. That's such a good way to look at what we do. I have a friend and a mentor who I've watched be so consistently good at doing small, menial things with great care and attention and diligence. And that's been something that's really impacted me over the years. And I've kind of realized that I've strayed away from that in the last little while. And I think a lot of people have, and I think it's easy to, because it does feel like there's so much going on in the bigger picture, the bigger world. We're all connected through the internet. That's how many of you are listening to this podcast right now. And we think that, if we worry about these things and we think about these things and it's fine to, the one action we can take in these global issues is prayer. And I want to kind of qualify everything I previously just said with, you can take action in terms of the spiritual realm. You can pray about these things. So there is validity in concern if it leads to intercessionary prayer. I don't know if intercessionary is a word, but anyway, if it leads to intercession in prayer for these nations and these problems and these things, then that's totally fine. That's the path in the life of the believer. But if it just leads to concern for concern's sake and feeling like we've done something because we are concerned, I think that's a trap. And I know I've caught that in my own heart and life, and it's just something I have been thinking about and really percolating on for the last little while. Anyway, so I think that the most effective way that we can move as believers is by focusing on the small things in our immediate circle. And my mom actually was talking about the ripples, the effects that we have through our life, through raising our children, through treating people with kindness, respect, and love, through the encounters we have with people as we go about, our day and our life and the normal things you have to do, going to Costco and whatever else. It's important to focus on those things and do those small, menial things with great love and with great intention, because those are the ripples that are going to change the bigger things. And we may not see the fruit of the small things we do in our lifetime, but if we live with this intention on the small and the details and focus on what we can affect around us, and we can ask ourselves, what are the real things we could be tackling? Are kids going in our neighborhoods hungry? Is there a food program that I can join, that I can help? Can I, raise money for the food bank, or could I, a way to help humans? And if it is your calling to help animals, I believe that would be a legitimate calling, and I don't want to diminish anybody who feels that that's a real thing. But that's not the point of what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is, I think that as believers, if we focus on the small and we focus on real pain that hurts us to help, but that is, we voluntarily step into brokenness with maturity, knowing that where it hurts us is where it hurts the Lord as well. That is a good indicator of the things that really pull on God's heart, right? Or the things that pull on our hearts, because we're made in the image of God. And as if we're born again, we're able to see the world through His eyes as He sanctifies us and leads us and guides us. So we're able to look, see the problems, and the things that hurt us hurt Him, and we can go after those things rather than finding small things and deciding that that's going to be the good thing we do for the world, when there's so much, not more that we could be doing, but more specific things that pertain to problems that might hurt more, but if you go after those things, will have a longer impact in terms of affecting your community and the world in general, which, small ripples, butterfly flaps its wings, hurricane, the whole shtick. Anyway, that was kind of my scrambled bunch of thoughts. Thank you for listening. If you have questions, concerns, crises, tumors, feel free to email me at thecricketandtheking@gmail.com. That's thecricketandtheking@gmail.com. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have, or pray for you, or whatever you may need. Thank you so much again for taking the time to listen, and we will see you on the next one. Blessings.